So Sam, another assist at the weekend. How pleased are you to get all of these goal contributions off so early in your Shrimpers career?
Yeah, I think it's important to start well. That gives you that extra boost. So delighted with that, but also delighted with the wins that we're getting and adding the points up.
We've made this really promising start to this season. Is there anything that you've brought over from your time at Notts County when you were in this league trying to get out of it that you're applying to your game and to the team this time around?
Yeah, definitely. I think not just my time at Notts, but just every club I've been at through my career, you pick things up and you take things on that you've had success with. So hopefully we can carry that on forward through to Southend, and I feel like there's early signs there, but obviously it's very early on in the season. So we just got to keep working hard and keep putting in the performances.
Looking at Boston United, they're quite a familiar opponent of yours from when you were at Kidderminster, but it's now been 3 years since you played against them. How much do you think is sort of retained from that time, and what are you expecting from them?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a tough test, but I think we're the home side, so I think it's important to focus on ourselves. We want to follow on from a win and get a nice little run going, so I think we've got to focus on ourselves and make sure that we do our job. Back-to-back
home games now, it's second in a week. How much are you enjoying playing in front of a Roots Hall crowd?
Yeah, it's brilliant. Packed out grounds is where you want to be. You want to be playing in front of that every week, and we certainly are so far. So we're grateful as a team to have such great support, and it really does help us.
Perfect, thanks Sam.
Sam, Kevin described the win against FC Halifax Town as a perfect response to the defeat in midweek against Wealdstone. What were your thoughts on it, and how's it giving you guys a boost this week as well?
Yeah, definitely. That reaction was important, but I think we've learnt a hell of a lot from the Wealdstone game as well, because you don't just learn from winning games, you learn from losing, and it was a chance for us to look back at it and look at what maybe we need to work on, and we did that and put on a good performance. So it's about taking those things into the next games as well.
If I may, what would you say are those biggest things from that Wealdstone game?
I feel like there's quite a lot of things because obviously the performance wasn't good enough. So it's about going over them as a team, and that we sort of set expectations and standards to where we wanted to be, and they've ultimately fell short of those. So it was important that we just had a quick reminder on those little things.
Yeah, I suppose it's been a busy couple of weeks, hasn't it, with midweek games and those sort of how nice it's been to have this full week of training going into the game coming up.
Yeah, this league's relentless, and you're going to have those weeks where it's game after game, and now we've got a little break where we can look at those games and put the work on the training pitch. So it's been a great week so far, so we're looking forward to the game on Saturday.
And as I touched on, another assist on your tally there as well from the weekend game as well, and it seems like you're really enjoying the work with those both forwards. Tell me how you as a midfielder, how you go about building connections with the sort of your forwards and your fellow teammates.
Yeah, it's I think the more games that come is ultimately what makes that happen. I think we can tell as a team that we're definitely gelling more, the more games goes on and the more work we do in the training pitch, and it's just knowing each other's movement, where they want to be on the pitch, and that comes with games and time ultimately. So I feel like that's starting to show more and more.
Definitely. And as well, obviously you've got very great before coming into this as well. How does being at Southend United, been a couple of months now, how does this compare to maybe some of the other clubs you've been in your career as well?
I think it's right up there. It's brilliant. I think the lads, the setup here, training ground's brilliant. The fan base, there's not much that I can say bad about the club. I'm really enjoying my time, and we've had a good start, so that always helps. When you start well, everyone has a good feeling, and you want to try and hold on to that as long as possible. So I'm really enjoying it.
Now this Boston United side coming to Roots Hall, a bit of mixed form for them to start the season, but whereabouts do you think the dangers are from this team coming in?
Yeah, well, like I said before, they're going to be a tough test, and I think that if we get our game right, we should make sure that we're the ones on top, and I think if we do that, then with the form we're in, hopefully we can get the win.
Now Roots Hall for consecutive games as well. I mean, you've had over 8,000 crowds for the first 4 games of the season, which is brilliant to see. And you mentioned it there, everyone being packed out into it as well. As a player, how much do you sort of use that atmosphere? Do you sort of try and take some time to soak in that atmosphere, help it boost you, or do you try and focus on the game that's going on in front of you?
Yeah, I think it's at times throughout the game more than anything. When there is a stoppage in play, you sort of do notice the crowd and the noise, but sometimes when you're in the middle of the game, you don't really hear it much else and going on in your thoughts. But like I said, when the goals go in, the noise is brilliant.
And away from the football, how are you finding settling in and around the area and those sorts of things?
Yeah, really, really comfortable. Enjoying it, and loads of nice places to go and meet up and stuff. So yeah, really enjoying my time.
Have you had a chance to go down maybe to the down to the pier, see those areas?
I haven't done the pier yet, but I've done like the likes of Lee, and I'm just sort of waiting for the end of September so we can take the dogs on the beach and stuff. So that'd be good.
Brilliant. How many dogs do you have?
Just one.
Oh, brilliant! Thank you. Rihanna's just going to ask you a couple of questions.
Yeah, just one. How much confidence does the win at the weekend from the home ground give you going into the next game against Boston?
Oh, massive! Because leaving off a win with the fans, it's a positive feeling, and you want to continue positive feelings throughout the whole season as long as possible.
Thanks.
And so on Saturday you linked up really well with Harry Boyes down the left-hand side. Is that something that's sort of come naturally, or you've worked on it, or how's that developed in recent weeks?
Well, obviously we work a lot in training with the shape and things, and it's not just connections with one player. It's like knowing what your connections are with others, and it just seems that we sort of reading each other now, which is great. And obviously, like I said before, the more games goes on, hopefully that gelling happens more, and more success.
Yeah, and there's so much competition for places in midfield, probably more than anywhere else in the team. How much does that help bring the best out of you all? And is it hard sometimes when the manager rotates it that you're having to sort of dip out every now and then?
Yeah, I think it's important to realise that it's a team game, but it also spurs you on to, when you do have the shirt, you make sure you keep it, and it can only, make a positive environment because you're going to be wanting to wear the shirt and be in that starting 11. So it's all positive, and it sort of eggs you on a little bit to make sure you keep the shirt.